Thank you kindly for joining us on a Monday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville. Good Monday afternoon to you. A lot to cover on the program, a lot to cover on the show, ladies and gentlemen, including some knowledge on what AstraZeneca is going to pay the 600 new workers that are coming to northern Albemarle County and the Greene County line. The Albemarle County's top executive has offered detailed explanation, Jeff Richardson, the county executive, into the $4.5 billion investment by publicly traded AstraZeneca in the Rivanna Futures footprint. That's northern Albemarle County, right on the Albemarle County-Greene County line. This was dirt and land purchased from the Wendell Wood estate by Albemarle County. And goodness gracious, 600 people at an average salary of $125,000 per person. That's the average, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, a similar organization, Eli Lilly, is investing $5 billion with a B, into Goochland County, where they will also create new jobs. Eli Lilly, 650 new jobs at an equivalent salary of $125,000 per head. So with the Eli Lilly and Goochland $5 billion investment, 650 new jobs, similar $125,000 per person, and the AstraZeneca $4.5 billion investment, 600 new jobs, $125,000 a person, Albemarle County, the city of Charlottesville, and Central Virginia are bookended by two publicly traded giants. And ladies and gentlemen, 1,250 incremental jobs and an average salary of $125,000 a person. We're going to talk about that on the I Love CVille Show today. Also on the program, the new zoning ordinance, the soap opera. I mean, just an absolute Young and the Restless soap opera disaster may be coming to an end. And one of the biggest oppositions to the new zoning ordinance, Jerry Cox, the attorney of the Lewis Mountain neighborhood, the managing director of the Forerunner Foundation, an organization which has been assisting plaintiffs battling the city in an aggressive lawsuit against the new zoning ordinance. He had some very to-the-point commentary about this lawsuit, the fact that it's about to be hasta luego and a thing of the past, and the impact it's going to have on the city of Charlottesville. Jerry Cox spared no expense with comments to Hall Spencer and the Daily Progress. We will relay those comments to you, and it's a perfect segue to ask this question. 303 Alderman Road, it is on the market for sale, and I'm seeing at least one team member from Evergreen Development and the Evergreen home builders firm watching the program right now. 303 Alderman Road has been listed for sale for $949,000. This is the brick rancher in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood that Evergreen purchased about a year and change ago. Evergreen bought this house in June of 2024 for $835,000. They proceeded to gut the entire interior portion of the home and put up a massive banner that said 6 luxury brownstones are scheduled to be built on this site. They will hold a price tag each of well more than $1 million. The backlash against Evergreen was so significant that finally, 23 days ago, the firm decided to list the property for sale with a shocking price tag of $949,000. Shocking because they purchased this brick rancher in June of last year for $835,000, then proceeded to gut the house that is 75 years old. I'm going to ask Evergreen the question. Now, 2 of their team members watching the broadcast, are they going to consider taking the home off the market? And will they pursue a luxury brownstone plan in the Tony Lewis Mountain neighborhood? So much to cover on the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, including interim UVA president clapping back at the Trump administration around happy hour this past Friday. We'll put in perspective the clap back from interim President Mahoney on Donald Trump and what that could mean to the University of Virginia moving forward. The clapback, of course, as it relates to the Trump compact, 10, I think suggestion is not the best word, 10 strong arm orders from the Department of Justice and the Trump administration on how the University of Virginia must change immediately if it wants to maintain federal funding. We'll talk about that on today's show. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you this question. Will this election cycle have a positive or negative impact on city public schools and Albemarle County public schools? That conversation is going to be a difficult pill to swallow for many parents who have students in the city public schools and Albemarle County public schools, because this election cycle, ladies and gentlemen, is looking like more of the status quo. So much to cover on the broadcast. We will highlight Conan Owen in Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. He was in the building about 35 to 40 minutes ago. He's helping us with some signage. We have 24 tenants in our real estate portfolio, a lot of them in the building on Market Street that we have the lion's share of ownership in. He's helping us update the signage and branding in the hallways, on the lobby marquee, on the front doors of these rental properties. He was in the building and we were talking business development left and right. The man has a pulse on what's happening in Charlottesville, including, ladies and gentlemen, restaurants, development, finance, pharmaceuticals, any kind of business. Sir Speedy of Central Virginia is who you contact for any logo application that you may need, from a signage, direct mail, window decal, lanyards, stickers, merch, uniform standpoint. Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, he's a Darden graduate. A lot to cover on the broadcast, Judah Wickhauer. Studio camera, if you could please. And I'm going to ask you the question that I ask you to start every single program. Which headline today intrigues you the most and why? Judah B. Wickhauer, jack of all trades and jack of all wits, the show is yours.
Well, I'm glad that UVA is not going along with the suggestions, so to speak, and I'm also interested in a discussion of this zoning ordinance. I don't really think anybody is winning, or is it really a loss? Anyways, we'll talk about that.
The interesting story that's not being fully highlighted here is the impact that this new zoning ordinance is going to have on financially marginalized neighborhoods in the city. Sean Tubbs had a little bit of reporting yesterday about this in the CVille Weekly. Here's a good example. CRHA and the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, the low-income housing outfits that are out there, are legitimately fighting, guys. They're fighting a project that is being planned for the Fifeville neighborhood that's student housing. You are going to see density pop up in financially marginalized neighborhoods that's going to be geared for students, young professionals, and well-to-dos, because that's the most affordable dirt for development possible, and it will rapidly rapidly gentrify our city.
Yeah.
Wait and see what happens here.
If you're going to allow for a change of zoning, don't expect for people to be buying up the expensive plots of land.
And we've been touting that from day one. We're going to talk the football game from last night. I have multiple comments coming in. This one from Neil Williamson, and also a similar comment from John Blair. Publicly traded pharmaceutical company Merck is now going to invest $3 billion into Rockingham County in an expansion in Elkton, which is going to add up to 500 jobs in the Shenandoah Valley. That's from Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. John Blair on LinkedIn has a similar comment. Their photos on screen, please. John Blair says, Jerry, Rockingham County announced a couple hours ago that Merck is now building a new $3 billion with a B facility and 500 new jobs. Think about this. You have the Paul Manning Biotech Institute in Charlottesville. You have AstraZeneca in Albemarle County. You have Eli Lilly in Goochland. You now have Merck in Rockingham County. You're going to have an additional 1,100 high-paying biotech jobs within driving distance of Albemarle County. I don't think people are understanding just how huge this transformation will be for the area. I mention this legitimately John Blair, great comment. Neil Williamson, great comment. Legitimately, before Paul Manning made the donation, a 9-figure plus donation to the University of Virginia to fund the Paul Manning Biotech Institute on Fontaine. I'm literally standing in a room enjoying something wet with, I got to be careful who I say here. And they legitimately look me in the eyes and say, your platform should know that what's going to happen in less than 10 years is an incremental increase of citizenship and population to the tune of 6,000 conservative, 10,000 top end, all 6-figure high-income jobs because of this Biotechnology Institute. And since before COVID, I've been sounding the 911 alarm on the I Love CVille show about the impact of the impact of biotechnology in this area. And here we're in the top of the third inning. The top of the first inning was the Paul Manning donation, the billionaire's donation, a 9-figure check to get the ball rolling on Fontaine. That was the top of the first inning. The top of the second inning was getting the senior vice president from AstraZeneca to be the new managing director and head honcho of the UVA Paul Manning Biotech Institute. That was the top of the second inning. The top of the third inning, which we're in right now, is AstraZeneca then saying we're going to invest $4.5 billion into Albemarle County, and it's going to create 600 jobs. We find out on Friday from Jeff Richardson, the county executive, that those 600 jobs, the average is $125,000 per job. $125,000 per job. If they have a 2-income family, like it's a woman at AstraZeneca making $125,000, and her husband's also in the workforce, they're going to be well above the median income family household level, which is $125,800 according to HUD. We also know Eli Lilly and Goochland's doing 650 jobs. John Blair and Neil Williamson just say the news breaks before the show that publicly traded Merck is now building a $3 billion facility in Rockingham County with 500 new jobs. So let's just do some basic math, Judah, okay? Basic math. Are you ready? 600 for AstraZeneca. 650 for Eli Lilly. 500 for Merck. That's 1,750 jobs that are scientist and high-level jobs, all within spitting distance of city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. 1,750 new jobs. Let's just use the AstraZeneca average of 125,000. If these 1,750 new jobs, the average is 125,000, that doesn't even include the jobs that are coming from the Paul Manning Biotech Institute. Immediately right now, in the top of the third inning, ladies and gentlemen, if you include the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, can we use a back of the napkin on the Paul? Let's do a conservative number, the lowest number possible, just to build a conservative model. Let's say 250 for the Paul Manning Biotech Institute. That's a low ball, big time.
Bring it up to an even 2,000.
That's an even 2,000. At $125,000, incremental jobs, people moving to the area, that's one income. Imagine if they're married, they have a spouse that's also earning money. The 125 average is on par with median family household income without a spouse also earning income. I've been told by the people signing the checks, okay, the people signing the checks, that the true economic impact here is not the AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, Paul Manning Biotech Institute, and now Merck. It's going to be the entire supply chain and economic ecosystems that are hanger-ons or clingers or just trying to ride the coattails of AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, Merck, and Paul Manning Biotech Institute. That's going to be the significant economic impact of what's happening and or gentrifier of this community. It's no secret that Stanley Martin Homes, fantastic home builder, is looking at building thousands of units in Greene County. Why? That's right next to Rivanna Future and Rivanna Station. If you have an opportunity right now to jump on any speculative investment, or you're considering any opportunity in northern Albemarle County, in Barbersville, and Greene, I had this conversation this morning in this room, you heard it, with a real estate broker in this studio this morning. If you have an opportunity in any capacity to jump on anything speculative in Greene County right now, goodness gracious, do it. Anything speculative in Louisa and Orange and Culpeper and Goochland, goodness gracious, do it. You've missed the boat on Albemarle already, ladies and gentlemen. So much to cover on the program. Rob Neal watching the show, Spencer Pushard watching the show. We have print, radio, and television watching the program. We have a counselor, 2 Albemarle County supervisors, a Louisa supervisor, a Greene supervisor, and an Albemarle supervisor watching the program literally as we speak. We have been sounding this alarm since before COVID, have we not? And everything sounded in the alarm is materializing. Comments, put them in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. Comments are coming in quickly today on a show that's hot. We haven't even gotten to the University of Virginia and its football team. Anything you want to add to this before I go to the comments, Judah Wickower?
AstraZeneca? Nothing specific.
Let's get to these. Rob Neal watching the program. He says, Elkton is west of Macedon on 33. The Merck facility will be 20 miles from 29-33 intersection. He says east of Elkton, not west, from Rob Neal. Kevin Yancey is offering comments. Any and all those positions are 36 to 48 months before they start. 100%, Kevin Yancey. We have a 2029 start. We're in the runway up to it. The runway up to it is right now, Kevin Yancey. Now's the opportunity if you want to be an opportunist to get in the game. You've probably actually missed the boat, anybody who's missed the boat, because the people that were in the game were doing this before COVID. Okay, you've probably missed the boat if you're trying to get in the game on that. Carol Thorpe, will you cover the information I sent you about the fate of the Stonewall Jackson Little Sorrel monument that got massacred? If not today, sometime this week. We'll cover it sometime this week for sure, Carol Thorpe, and we appreciate you sending us that information. We'll cover it sometime this week. We had a lot to get to today, but we'll cover it sometime this week for sure, Queen of Jack Jewett. Wild time for content on the show. I think the lead of the show should be UVA. Think about this. Are you ready for this, Judah? At a time where we've highlighted that 2,000 new workers are coming to the area now or soon, and Kevin Yancey, I'll push back a little bit on your 36 months away. The Paul Manning Biotech Institute, those jobs are happening now. Those jobs are happening now. The upper-level positions with AstraZeneca and the upper-level positions with Eli Lilly and Merck, those jobs are happening now. The full staff is not going to be filled out, to your point, for about 36 months. But consider this. The director for the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, he was hired, what, about a year ago? And we don't even have a biotech institute on Fontaine yet. So the leadership positions, the C-suite, the people directing the vision, those jobs are happening now. And it's all happening at a time where the University of Virginia football team, put that lower third on screen, is number 16 in the nation.
Yeah.
So consider this collision of events that's happening for Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Are you ready for this collision of events? This is why I've been so bullish on Charlottesville and Albemarle County. This is why I'm bullish on Charlottesville, Albemarle County real estate. Okay? In the last 12 months, here's what we've seen in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Are you ready for this? Paul Manning Biotech Institute comes online, backed by a 9-figure investment by a billionaire. Mm-hmm. They seduce and romanticize the senior vice president from AstraZeneca to be their managing director. Then, after seducing and romanticizing the senior vice president from AstraZeneca to Paul Manning, AstraZeneca announces a $4.5 billion investment. The Eli Lilly announces a $5 billion investment. Now Merck is announcing a significant investment. I need to start remembering all this. $3 billion in Merck, 500 new jobs.
Yeah.
This is all happening at the exact same time that some unnamed HNW, high net worth individual, invested some kind of 9-figure commitment into the University of Virginia football program. That 9-figure commitment into the University of Virginia football program by some high net worth individual has yielded and materialized a 6-win 6-1 start for Tony Elliott's program. He goes from worst football program in all of power football, Tony Elliott, over the last 3 years, the absolute doormat of college football. The least amount of wins over the past 3 years in power football, college football, was Tony Elliott in Virginia football. Now they are 6-1 and ranked 16 in the nation.
Yeah.
And have an opportunity to run the rest of the schedule, ladies and gentlemen. And if they run the rest of the schedule, they're playing in an ACC championship with an opportunity to play in the college football playoff. This is all happening at the same time that Ryan Odom, the men's basketball coach, has recruited a United Nations of talent. He's got arguably the best front court in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Ryan Odom. This team in the preseason, and no one knows anyone on this roster, is ranked in the top 40 in the nation, and they have yet to play a game. I'm going to tell you right now, this team is going to be really good. All of this is happening at the same time that the University of Virginia is expanding its student body, attracting a higher income family or student. Do you see the collision of factors that are happening at the same time here for this community? Talked to Keith Smith on Friday. A third of all transactions in real estate are all cash. And the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors footprint. 1/3 of all real estate transactions are all cash, ladies and gentlemen. 1/3 are all cash. I'm reading content about development that's being scheduled in Fifeville and on West Main. West Main Street, they want apartment towers. The West Haven community's fighting back against this apartment tower. They're like, not another apartment tower that's going to block the sun. We already have the flats and the standard. I play squash with a fourth year at the University of Virginia. Fantastic guy named Bez. He lives in the flats. Private bedroom in the flats, his own shower, his own bath, shares a common area, was positioned in a roommate setting with some students that he didn't know by the landlord that owns and operates the flats. Pays $1,300 a month for a one room on West Main Street. Tiny room. But he has his own bathroom and shower and can lock the door to his bedroom. He's in a 4-top, in a 4-room suite. That 4-room suite in the flats is generating one suite for the landlord north of $5,000 a month, $5,200 a month. Of course, the people that built the standard are looking to build another apartment tower right next door to the standard, overlooking West Haven. The people who built the standard could give a rat's ass that the Potbelly sandwich shop and the 2 other retail spots under the apartment tower are vacant and have struggled to have business success. Because that's just an afterthought, that storefront for business. Who cares if people can sell heavy-duty sandwiches at Potbellies? The real money is the suites, the apartments above it. And the developer behind the standard wants to build another one overlooking West Haven. So here we have a world where a new zoning ordinance was passed, right? Hear me out. Mm-hmm. We have a world where a new zoning ordinance was passed. And city council's passing of this new zoning ordinance was like, let's make the zoning loose and relaxed. And let's make the path have very little resistance for developers. Because if the path has very little resistance for developers, then they're going to be more likely to build density. And the increased units will breed affordability, supply and demand, right? That's their thinking. They don't do a traffic study. The plaintiffs who sue the city say, ooh, no traffic study done here. You should have done a traffic study. That's the basis for our lawsuit. No traffic study. Should have done a traffic study. The plaintiffs go back and forth with the city. They get a small victory when the city's third-party legal firm, Gentry Lock, misses a filing deadline. Judge Worrell throws out the case and says, no way, Jose. You missed a filing deadline. Then it gets back to Judge Worrell, and he's like, oh, the case is back in action. You can move forward with it. Plaintiffs find out that Gentry Lock is now going to run their best arms, their relief pitchers that throw 100 miles an hour, their senior partners, their heavy-duty pitchers, their heavy-duty cleanup hitters, instead of their middle relief pitchers and their utility infielders. They're going to trot out their best legal talent because they missed this filing deadline. Now the plaintiffs realize that this case is going to go to end of next year before there's anything decided, and that the city is going to double and triple down. And if they don't win this, they're just going to do another zoning ordinance to see it through. So the plaintiffs finally decide to throw in the towel, on the cusp of throwing in the towel, because they realize that a traffic study is either going to be done now, a traffic study is going to be done at the end of next year, or they're going to do another zoning ordinance to the city with a traffic study done then. And the plaintiffs got no leverage, nothing to hang on. Jerry Cox, who lives in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood, he's an attorney. He's one of the most vocal and public-facing individuals who's in opposition to the new zoning ordinance, right? Jerry Cox tells the Daily Progress over the weekend in an article written by Hall Spencer, fantastic reporter. Here's the managing director of the Forerunner Foundation. He says, this new zoning ordinance, this is not a settlement. His words. He says it's a total capitulation to the city and the developers. He's basically saying that the plaintiffs are bending over backwards to the city and the developers. And what you're going to be left with is more developers like the folks who did the standard looking to do student apartment towers. Because why wouldn't you pursue student housing? Why wouldn't you pursue student housing when my squash opponent, a fourth year at the University of Virginia, who's going to be probably a successful diplomat eventually in his life, speaks 5 languages, studying foreign affairs, minoring in business, minoring in government, not business, wants to be a diplomat. He's like, I'm going to go and pay $1,300 a month for a tiny room in this apartment tower because the amenities and the location and the convenience. So of course you're going to see a population uptick, student body uptick. UVA's admitting more people in. Population is increasing, tied to innovation, data science and biotechnology, quality of life, UVA sports and business. You're going to see developers trying to capture that population uptick, just like Stanley Martin's going to be doing in Greene County with all those homes that are coming to market. A-plus quality homes. They're fantastic developers, Stanley Martin. They do A-plus work. The housing supply that's going to come on market over the next 36 to 60 months, 3 to 5 years, is not going to be a housing supply that breeds affordability.
Yeah.
It's going to be a housing supply that meets population demand. Housing supply that meets population demand. And all these proponents of this new zoning ordinance that the added supply is going to create price stability, they don't see the forest through the trees. They don't see what's happening right now. John Blair has this comment. Comments are coming in quickly. You make sure you're rotating the lower thirds on screen. Is this the UVA Snatches win from WSU still on screen there?
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. John Blair says this, I'm going to offer this to you about the region's transformation. Last month, the Fed released stats that said that 50% of all consumer spending in this country is done by the top 10%. Given what's already here and the new money that is going to be flooded in, Albemarle is definitely a top 10% locality. 100%, John. 100%. 100%. Coden Owen says, sure, the 5,200 is nice, but what is the ROI on the project? I'll tell you, the return on investment for the flats in Core and Capshaw was off the chain. You can Google that history. Core and the developer behind the flats, not the owner of the flats anymore. Viewers and listeners, you can spend some time Googling that on your own accord. James Watson watching the show, his photo on screen. You know what's kind of sad is it appears that UVA students don't like the old dumpy houses near grounds in the corner, and they'll stay further out from grounds because there's great amenities in those newer places. I even know some undergrads who stay in the condos near Stonefield. I always thought it was cool to be able to walk to class in the corner and all that, but I think the amenities now are outdoing the attractiveness of those old places the students used to stay in. Moving further out, of course, takes away housing stock for everyday folks as well. 100% James Watson. Here's the interesting change in student behavior. I went to UVA from 2000 to 2004. Lived on 10th Street for a couple of years. After UVA targeted Oxford Hills, sat on the corner of 10th and Preston Avenue across from George Washington Park. I lived on 14th Street, 14th Street. I lived on 14th Street for 2 years, then I lived on the corner of 14th and Preston after UVA and Oxford Hills. I lived on 14th Street because I wanted to walk to the corner to go to bars, to be able to close them down and have an easy way to get home. Because the students aren't drinking and partying at the same clip that they used to when I was there, or even my brother was there after me. The proximity to the corner and the proximity to those old homes on 14th Street doesn't have the same lure. In fact, if you drive down 14th Street now, you will see a number of homes on 14th Street that have for lease signs in their yard. Never would you see for lease signs on 14th Street when I was there, because those are the close houses to the UVA corner and bars. Because kids aren't drinking like they used to, and because they have iPhones and data and information and knowledge at their fingertips, Uber and Lyft at their disposal, they're willing to live further away from grounds and just hop in an Uber or take a class via Zoom or digitally. You okay there, Judah?
Yeah.
And not worry about stumbling to and from the UVA corner. This is absolutely eroding the housing stock from locals. I do think that those homes on 14th Street, James, will start becoming teardowns, and their true value will be the dirt and the upside that can be developed there. And speaking of upside, Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes is who you call to create upside at your house, at your commercial investments. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes, ladies and gentlemen, can customize anything hardscape related for your house, your commercial holding, real estate holding. They help ideas turn into reality. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. That's who you call for hardscapes in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Fantastic office in the old Wells Fargo building for Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. Now, why don't we get to 303 Alderman Road? Deep Throat's got some comments on 303 Alderman Road. His photo on screen. I'm going to ask this question, and it's a tongue-in-cheek, almost a tongue-in-cheek statement. Will Evergreen now take 303 Alderman Road off the market? They're asking $949,000 for a brick rancher they purchased in June of last year for $835,000. They're legitimately asking $114,000 more for this brick rancher after gutting the entire inside of the house and basically white boxing it.
Yeah.
A 75-year-old house on 0.31 acres where they had initially planned to build 6 luxury brownstones at $1 million plus a pop per brownstone. Luke Cole had the listing and was able to sell the Lewis Mountain location. He's a fantastic realtor that now works for Eddie Kay's real estate firm that specializes in city and urban real estate. Eddie Kay's firm does. Luke Cole was able to find the buyer, Evergreen. Great job from Luke. Is Evergreen going to pull this listing off the market? You Google 303 Alderman Road, viewers and listeners, and you can find it on Zillow, the $949,000 asking price, and look at the photos. Don't you have photos that you can show on screen?
I can look for them. Let me see.
You showed them on Friday.
Yeah,
on Friday's
I still
show.
have 'em.
Deep Throat says this: 303 Alderman Road was not blocked by NZO questions. It was blocked by covenants that Evergreen's first lawyers in typical bumpkin fashion completely missed. Later, they hired Woods Rogers, and I imagine the lawyer there, who I know, appropriately counseled them that they effed up and had better cut their losses. Covenants and restrictions that the initial attorney, these are my words, covenants and restrictions that the initial attorney missed in a title search and a title hunt and due diligence. I'll push back slightly on this deep throat and ask you this. If they truly were going to cut their losses, as you indicated, why would they list the home for $949,000 instead of the purchase $835,000, especially since they gutted the entire inside of the house? If it was truly a cut the loss play, wouldn't they just list it for $750,000 and just run away from this? I mean, think about the carrying costs. I mean, think about the fodder they've created for this platform. Does Evergreen somehow get back in the mix and then play the optics game? Because I think Evergreen legitimately has this optics game with the Lewis Mountain neighborhood. Are you ready for this? I see their firm watching the program, by the way. This is the optics game that I would consider playing if I was possibly calling the shots. Oh. The zoning ordinance is now being settled. I could wave a flag that says, I'm going to bring 6 units where 1 previously existed. Those 6 units will increase the supply of housing locally and dramatically impact the real estate tax collection tied to this roughly 1/3 acre parcel in Lewis Mountain. Shouldn't you, Lewis Mountain neighborhood, stop trying to make this your Normandy Beach and allow us, the Good Samaritans, to build 6 units at a time where the average Joe and the average Jennifer can't even find a place to live in the city? And if you stop this as your Normandy Beach, Lewis Mountain, the real estate tax collection for the city will be dramatically improved, and perhaps council will agree to allocate a portion of that incremental tax collection to housing affordability initiatives. You don't want to be, Lewis Mountain, the bad guys that keep that from happening. Do you? That's a play I would consider if that was the firm, if I was counseling that firm. And flip the script. And you can flip the script while the house is on the market for sale. Because I'm going to tell you right now, this house ain't going to sell for $949,000. And I'm going to tell you right now, the real estate market is in quicksand. So the likelihood of you exiting this position before the end of 2025 and the likelihood of you carrying this position through the first quarter of next year is pretty significant. So why don't you hedge your risk and play both ends? First end, keep the home active for sale. Second end, try to win the battle of PR. And say, all we're trying to do is create some extra supply. Now it's this neighborhood that's keeping us from doing it. He says that ain't a vote of Lewis Mountain. All it takes is one neighbor. Any neighbor with the same covenants can sue to stop it and will win. And at that point, Evergreen can dox the neighbor. Call their bluff. Which neighbor in Lewis Mountain is going to go to bat to stop this from happening? Which neighbor is going to open up their wallet and their paycheck, open up their wallet and their checkbook to go toe-to-toe with this well-capitalized development firm? And once that happens, that's going to be content and fodder for this talk show, and certainly content and fodder for Matthew Gillikin and Livable CVille. Matthew Gillikin and Livable CVille will dox them.
No doubt.
And go after them. And you're right, I do think it would be Jerry Cox that would go after him. Jerry Cox lives in Lewis Mountain. Spencer Pushard watching the program. I got a 1:30 meeting, by the way. He says a lot of those older houses on 14th, Wartland, and 15th don't have central heating and air, making the high rental costs of units like the flats or standard higher because they don't have a HVAC on 14th, Wartland, and 15th Street. He's right. Where I lived on 14th Street, I had a window unit because we didn't have central air, central HVAC. 14th, Wartland, and 15th Street, that entire area, the play for that entire area is assemblage. If you're somehow able to purchase a handful of side-by-side at 14th, 15th, Wartland, in that area, the assemblage play is how you then build apartment tower. Or better yet, this is free advice. There's brokers all over the firm watching here. Free advice for you. Go into 14th Street. Use the Charlottesville GIS. Matt Neese, I see you watching the program. I see folks at Ness, Real Estate 3. I see folks at Keller Williams. I see six different firms. This is what you should do. Get on the Charlottesville GIS, create an Excel spreadsheet, or handwrite it on a map. Get a map of Charlottesville. Figure out who the owners are of all the properties side by side, and figure out how you can buy 4 or 5 properties that are adjacent to each other, and then you start assembling properties because you own a bunch of them right next to each other. As you've then purchased 3 or 4, 5, 6 properties next to each other, continue to ride the wave of the rent rolls that are in place, the student rent rolls that are in place, but hire someone like Shimp Engineering, Justin Shimp, and see if you can now use the upside of this new zoning lawsuit being a thing of the past, and figure out a way where you can start getting the permitting process and the approvals going. They're going to be really lax now. For you to have an apartment tower on these tear-down student buildings that have been beat to shit by these kids living in them for generations. And then once you've spent, say, $750,000, $800,000, $1 million per house, and you got 4 or 5 of them, say you're out of pocket somewhere between $3 and $6 million, then you go to the developer behind the standard, the current owner behind the flats, or one of these out-of-market guys, and you say, here's the suite of permitting and approval. You guys can build an apartment tower here, and then that's when you 7, 8, 9, 10x your upfront investment. It'll take you somewhere between, 12 to 24 months to get this done, probably a little bit longer, call it 36 months. Your upfront number is going to be somewhere between $3 and $5 million, but your back-end number is going to be north of $25 million. Mark that down. Someone's going to do that. We'll give some love to Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. 61 consecutive years in business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply is who you call for anything sanitary supply related. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply on East High Street. Online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply has in-market delivery, literally free delivery in-market. They will beat all the big box stores and getting product delivered to your doorstep faster than anyone, any big box store. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, Miele vacuums, sanitary needs, a mechanic on site. They're the best of the best. Absolute best of the best. I got a meeting in 9 minutes. Other headlines that we haven't covered. What are they, Judah Wickower?
We've got the interim president clapping back. We've got thousands gathering for the No Kings protest. And
a couple things. I'll move quickly here. The No Kings protest. I saw one media outlet with the No Kings protest say that there were 30,000 people at the No Kings protest. I got this text message this morning, okay? This is what the person who watches and listens to the show routinely said about the legacy old media that said there were 30,000 in attendance for the No Kings protest. Are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. This is what this person texted me. Does critical thinking appear anywhere in the media? If the average person is about 2 feet wide and holding a sign, and you give them 6 inches on either side for personal space, that's 3 linear feet per person. If 10,000 people attended, 30,000 linear feet would have been occupied. 30,000 linear feet is between 5 and 6 miles of sidewalk. Even if everyone was 2 rows deep, that would still be 2.5 to 3 linear miles of sidewalk occupied. If a full mile was covered on either side of 29, I think it's a generous estimate. So the real number is somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people that were here for this No Kings protest. So on the No Kings protest, was the turnout impressive? Yes, it was. Well done on the No Kings turnout. Very impressive. Extremely impressive. My Saturday afternoon, it was really nice on Saturday.
Yeah.
We spent our Saturday carving pumpkins, doing stuff outside, going to Selvage Brewery, watching the UVA game. I respect that you want to stand on Route 29 and inhale exhaust from vehicles that are traveling by you, holding signs. Props to you. To the old media that's watching and listening to the show, including one outlet that said there was 30,000 in attendance, that is what is driving your demise. Headlines like 30,000 in attendance at the No Kings protest is making your platform laughable. Mm-hmm. I can't be more straightforward than that. Okay, next headline. Interim President Paul Mahoney on the clapback with the Trump administration. I agree. Great job, UVA. The Trump administration and the Department of Justice should not be telling state universities, public universities, what to do, how to do it, and certainly should not be leveraging federal funding to extort them into behavior that they want, and that's what Trump's doing. The sad thing is the orders, they were orders. If they were positioned differently as suggestions, if it wasn't bull in a china shop mentality, instead if it was like a big brother, arm around your shoulder, offering counsel and love and suggestions, the 10 items in that Trump compact, a lot of them were great.
Yeah.
Freeze tuition for 5 years. Tuition's obscenely expensive. Of course it should be frozen. You shouldn't be coming out $250,000 in debt. You shouldn't. A lot of the suggestions in the Trump compact were like prioritize United States students over international students. Yes. A lot of those things in the Trump compact were this. Make admissions merit-based. Mm-hmm. And not DEI-based. Yes. A guy and a guy, a girl and a girl, who their applications should be stacked against each other. Who's got better SATs and ACTs? Who's got better GPA? Who wrote the better essay? Who's got better extracurriculars, academics, athletics, Key Club, Honor Club, Chess Club? It shouldn't be based on your background.
Yeah, definitely.
Your skin color. Mm-hmm. It's merit-based. There are winners and losers in life. We're not giving anyone a basis for success by offering them admissions into schools where they don't belong.
Yeah.
But the way Trump went about it, where he was trying to extort private colleges and public universities and colleges, was the wrong way of doing it. Mm-hmm. All right, I got 4 minutes to get to a meeting on the mall. Any other headlines that we didn't cover?
Will this election
Jason Noble
cycle
says 30,000 is
impact-
it's so ridiculous, the 30,000 that the local platform said. We're going to save that headline. Will this local school board race in Charlottesville and the local school board race in Albemarle County do anything from a positive impact for local schools? I hope it does. Sadly, I think it won't. That topic on Tuesday's edition of the I Love CVille Show. And I remind the viewers and listeners that are watching this program, if you need office space of any capacity, reach out to us. Office space from $450 a month all the way to $10,000 a month. We can come up with meet criteria that you need. We're like the matchmaker of office space locally. We're really, really good at it. We're really good at it. We got a nonprofit that's on the cusp of leasing 3 of our spaces. Judah Wickower crushed it today. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show. Ladies and gentlemen, on a Monday.